Welcome to the Small Business Podcast series, where each week we are interviewing guests that are small businesses themselves supporting small businesses. And today we are bringing on an absolute special guest who is focused 100% on small businesses, and he can save you money where you don't even think you could save money. And that's taxes. And we have Michael Reeder, managing partner and CPA at Reeder CPA Group. Michael, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Jason, great to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm going to give the SEC compliance statement right off the top of the gate here that says we are not giving any financial advice or tax advice on this show, but we do. If you want to reach out directly to Michael, we'll have that information at the end of the show. Michael, can you give us a quick introduction to your business and the problems you're solving for your clients?
Absolutely. My name is Michael Reeder, CPA. If you haven't figured that out by now, it's a pleasure to be with you all today. And Jason, great to be with you. So I am the owner of Reeder CPA Group. So I now own the firm that hired me out of college. I'm 37 years old. And so when I was 24 or whatever, when I started back in 2010, it was Swartz Financial Management back then, and became a minority partner in 2015. Switched the name of the company to Swartz and Reeder Advisors. I bought it outright in 2019, switched the name to Reeder CPA Group. So I've been in it for about 14 years. We're a CPA firm for small businesses and individuals. We have a niche working with franchisee businesses and real estate professionals and real estate investors. And so the problem that I'm solving, that me and my team over at Reeder CPA Group are solving, is just we're helping small business owners navigate the tax code and pay less in taxes, providing quality, strategic, proactive tax planning and tax preparation services, in addition to bookkeeping, payroll, sales tax at reasonable fees. Because that's the thing, right? There are firms out there that, advisory service, strategic tax planning, and they cost an arm and a leg. And then you have other firms on the other side of the spectrum that charge you dirt cheap, but they actually end up costing you, they're actually more expensive because they're not paying you, you're paying more in taxes because you're getting that dirt cheap advice. And so we strive to come in to really service that small business owner that is an underserved component of the marketplace that needs more than just file my taxes in March, April. But they also are on a budget. And so we really strive to cater to that marketplace of small business owners. I would say, Jason, about a solopreneur doing like 100 to 500,000 to, a business doing like 500 to 1 to 3 million in revenue is our sweet spot. But we can obviously work with clients more than that, but that's our sweet spot.
Nice. That is, and it's so valuable to have an appropriate professional doing your taxes. I had a bad experience early in my kind of solopreneur days and ended up paying a bunch of extra in taxes because I didn't have the right person doing the work. So can hugely attest to the value of having a proper CPA doing it. Now, you're in a little bit of a unique situation compared to a lot of the guests I have on this podcast. They're the ones that founded their business. You bought your business, and I've bought a couple of businesses myself over the time. What inspired you to decide to move from just being in the firm to actually acquiring the firm you were working for?
So great question. I'm 37 years old. I've been doing this for about 14 years. And so as I reflect on I've always just been a natural leader. That's my conclusion. And it goes back even way before the business that I now own. It goes back to school, like in grade school, like when there was a class project, like now that I like in hindsight, and I'm blessed with great parents. My parents raised me great. And so a lot of it just has to do with how I was raised, strong work ethic, seen from my parents. But in grade school, it was always just when it's time to do a class project. Now that I think about it, people would just like naturally want to be with me because they know that I'm going to get it done. And then when I was a 3-sport athlete in high school, I wasn't the greatest athlete, but I showed up every day. I worked hard, and I was the captain of the teams just because I showed up and I did what I got to do to get the job done. And then it just and then the same thing in high school and college in the classroom and stuff like that. Nothing fancy, but I just get the job done. And then so it's like when I started working as an employee of the firm that I now own, I self-studied for the CPA exam when I was there. It was for 2010, 2011. I'm working full time. I go home and I just self-study for the CPA exam. And I'm always just what I got to do to get the job done, right? And so it's like that approach took me. I was I jumped around different schools in college, right? It took me 5 years to graduate college. I started out I went to Indiana University Bloomington. I'm originally from Chicago, and everyone in Chicago, what you do, like most high school kids go to a Big Ten school. So it's like a lot of people went to like University of Illinois, Champaign, Iowa, Michigan, Wisconsin, blah, blah, blah. I went to Indiana Bloomington, and I had a little too much fun there. I partied a lot. I was a journalism major. I was a physical therapy major. I didn't really see myself getting passionate about those things. It was like out of state tuition, so it was getting expensive. So I was undecided. I felt bad about wasting money. So I went back to Chicago. I finished up at a local community college and then a 4-year school called Northeastern Illinois University. I always say Northeastern Illinois, not the big Northeastern in Boston. And I just settled on an accounting degree because it was practical. And now I find myself with this degree, and I'm working the business. And the gentleman who I since bought it from, like, he just started relying on me he just started leaning on me a lot. He was teaching me stuff. He was leaning on me to get stuff done. There were certain problems in the business, right? Not everything was being billed. There were archaic infrastructure. There needed to be like process improvements, technology improvements. We needed to like bill for certain services that we weren't billing for. It was just, and then I just, again, like just getting into my normal like default, I just started getting shit done. Excuse my language. The next thing, it's just, I'm getting stuff done and I'm getting results. And then I get like, when I get my CPA exam, when I passed the CPA exam and got my license, I used that as leverage to get job offers to make more money. And I approached the owner at the time and I'm like, hey, I'm getting these job offers. So can you, and then he, wasn't able to match like the exact salary, but he gave me a fast track to partner. And so I was like, all right. And then as I was getting more of as I became a partner, I started seeing there was just like that much more. He just needed to rely on me that much more. And it just happened, Jason. It's just, he's like, as we leave this audio, as we do this podcast today, it's October of 2024. He's 82 now. So he was like in his early to mid 70s at the time. And it's just, for as much of a creative accountant as he was and still is, he wasn't really the greatest at like running a business. And so that's where I came in, and I was like, and then it's just, I put my heart and soul into it for so many years. I just bought it just because it became my baby. And so it's just, I didn't set out to do it. I was like, I want to buy a business. It just happened. And it just happened because a big part of it is because it just naturally happened. Just like people naturally gravitated to be on my like team in a school project, or people naturally followed my lead on the diamond or the gridiron. It just naturally happened that I got into a position to become a minority partner and then buy the business. I don't mean to pat myself in this is how I was raised. Whatever is placed in front of me, I'm just going to get it done. And so I never dreamed of being an accountant, but here I am. I've been in it for 14 years and I am my own boss, via buying the business that hired me out of college. And I work with a lot of, I'm sure we'll get into it. Like, I work with a lot of new business owners, existing business owners, blah, 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 whatever I can do to help. I work with a lot of veterans, a lot of people getting out of corporate, whatever I can do to help advise people so they can be their own boss. Because making money is one thing, but also like the autonomy of lifestyle. Right? Like, I'm coming to you live right now from Eastern Europe. I'm in Bulgaria. My wife's entire family lives in Bulgaria, so I'm on the Balkan Peninsula right now. I think, are you in Colorado, Jason?
Montana
Right?
is where I'm at.
Montana, okay, but
Yep.
I got the time zone right. Like I got mountain time, so I'm 8 hours ahead of you. We just had daylight savings. I can work here for several months out of the year. I can run my business, and as long as the work gets done, I know I'm going on and I'm rambling and stuff, but it's just like, I love the business ownership lifestyle for myself. I can never go back. I will do whatever I got to do, so I'm never an employee, but also so many people out there are craving this lifestyle as well. I talk to a lot of people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s that are trying to throw their hat in the entrepreneur ring for the first time. Like, there are people that are, they get like their 2 weeks of vacation. They have their vacation fund for their 2 or 3 weeks that they go on vacation for the year. To me, that just sounds horrible, but I know that it's like a reality out there for so many people. And so business ownership lifestyle, whatever I can do to help people live that lifestyle, not only from a money-making perspective and the tax code is written for the self-employed, but also just for autonomy of schedule and lifestyle.
Yeah, that sounds like you've been very passionate about the small business learning small business and getting into small business yourself, which has led to passion around supporting those small businesses and helping them continue to be a great part of their future and setting things up. And I've talked a lot on my YouTube channel and various different social media outlets of how making sure you set things up right now leads to a great retirement if that's the way you want to go, or just owning the business, or building that life that you don't have to retire from and you can just keep moving on and doing things that you love every day. Let's be real. You didn't start your business to feel stuck, overwhelmed, or bored out of your mind. But yet, here you are, spinning, stalled, or just chasing every shiny object just to stay motivated. And I know exactly how you feel, because I used to do the same thing. But that's why I built the Momentum Community, for founders like you. It's for people who are ready to get serious, simplify, and build a business that actually moves forward. It uses peer accountability, and it's what I used to be able to grow my business successfully and have a great exit. Does this sound like something you need? Click the link in the description below and let's have a conversation. Enjoy the rest of the show. What would you say differentiates yourself, tax CPAs or CPAs, from the public standpoint? It's a 3-letter acronym, and they're like, okay, what's the difference between this firm and this firm? What sets your firm apart in its approach to small businesses than, say, another firm's approach to small businesses?
Great question. So I like to say, simply put, me and my team, we are a tax strategy firm, right? We're tax strategists. We're not just tax preparers. The different, it's implied that being a tax strategist, that tax preparation comes with the service, right? Of course, we're going to prepare your taxes, business, personal, fiduciary, et cetera. But it's the dialogue that we have with our clients throughout the year. That's where the magic happens, right? A lot of other CPAs, accounting firms, accounting and tax firms, like a lot of them, like the status quo in the industry is it's just very commoditized. It's just, okay, it's January through April, send in your stuff, we'll do your taxes. Here's your tax return, here's your invoice. See you next tax season. Unless you have a question, reach out. And when you try to reach out, a lot of them don't even answer because they're just burnt out because they're stressed out with tax season and stuff. But small business owners, even like just regular individuals also, because taxes apply to everyone, but focusing on small business owners, need more than just filing my taxes in March and April. Small business owners need advisory, right? And that's where the tax strategist comes in, right? And so we have a monthly model for our core service of tax preparation and tax planning. So we charge a reasonable fee each month, and it's pending. Not all tax returns are created equal, right? Like you'll have a standard return. I can define a standard return, but then for that one client that has 4 businesses and 7 K1s, 3 states, 7 rental properties, yes, that client's going to cost more than like the one with just like 1 S corp, 1 personal return, simple, standard. I don't want to say simple. But we have a monthly fee for core service of tax preparation and tax planning. So just for the sake of conversation, right? 1 business return, nothing crazy. 1 personal return, nothing crazy. 4 hours of tax planning annually, coming in about 200 to 250 a month for that, 2,400 to 3,000 a year. And that's just like a ballpark number for the sake of conversation. Again, everything's pending review, but we come in, so it's a predictable monthly fee, and it creates a structure in which we're always in conversation with our clients throughout the year, talking strategy and implementing strategy. And of course, within that, filing their taxes, whether they go on, we get them filed by the deadlines in March, April, or if they go on extension. But it creates a framework in which we're always in conversation throughout the year. And that's where the magic happens. That's where the thousands of dollars are being saved in taxes each year, because we're talking strategy and implementing strategy. So at the end of the day, it sounds so simple, but accountants fall into the trap of trying to do everything themselves. Their clients are reaching out to them for everything. They are the ones that are doing the taxes. They're answering the phones. They're doing this. They're doing that. And so accountants, it's crazy, actually struggle. One of the professions that struggle the most, like with scaling their business. Accountants technically are notorious for just like getting stretched too thin because they're doing everything themselves, and then they just find them like they don't have time to give advice. And so you have to grow a team. You have to develop standard operating procedures. You have to train your team. You have to have good technology, et cetera. And to bring it in for a landing, what separates us is that we are giving that advisory in addition to just preparing taxes, whereas a lot of other firms out there just tend to monetize their practice by just doing the compliance, right? Just filing last year's taxes, reviewing last year's doing the bookkeeping for last year's financial statements, but not really doing anything like forward-looking, proactive, strategic tax planning at reasonable fees. And so that's what sets us apart.
And that is so valuable because tax planning, you don't think about it, but by the time you file your taxes in March, April, you're already 3 months into the year. And if you've had a killer first 3 months and you don't make a plan for some of the profits or how you're going to capitalize things, if you're in a high capitalization industry, there's different elements that could really negatively impact you at the end of the year. And having a planner to be able to go through that whole year is so valuable to be able to have that resource. So that is definitely a differentiator in what I've seen in the marketplace for CPAs. Looking ahead at the next 5 to 10 years inside of accounting and world and the tax reform. And as we talked a little bit before this, we're not going to get political here. Let's talk about what do you see as the things that are disrupting your industry the most?
Yeah, AI, obviously, that's the easy answer. So AI and also lack of talent, just less and less. There's a talent shortage, right? There are like a lot of accountants are retiring. A lot of kids don't want to go into the industry, and so you have a lot of people in the middle that are just have more work than they can handle. And who's going to do but everyone still needs an accountant. And so who's going to do all the work? What work is going to get replaced by AI? And then and then the getting away from transactional, right? Just here's your tax return, here's your invoice, here's the 30-minute phone call or the 1 hour phone call, here's the invoice for the consultation, right? Getting away from that and getting more to monthly retainer model pricing, right? Some people call it CAS, right? Client advisory services or client accounting services, just like a monthly model,
Yep.
which is more recurring revenue, that's more value add. And then I talk about AI. It's there are some tax returns as of today, right? If your tax return is just like a W-2 and mortgage interest and property taxes, and that's it, like AI can do your tax return today. Like ChatGPT can do your tax return today. TurboTax, you can DIY it, TurboTax, no problem. Like I would advise that you probably should. But if you want to see tax plan, okay, like max out your qualified accounts. There's only so many things that you can do if you're that type of client when it comes. But then, so that type of client is going to get. So to me, that kind of puts companies like TurboTax, Intuit, like I think like that type H&R Block, Liberty Tax, they're more vulnerable to losing their core work of those simple returns.
Yeah.
It's on the small business, right? S corps, LLCs, C corporations. I have a niche. I as a CPA that works a lot with business buyers. I'm very familiar with this entity structure called the Rob C Corporation, Rollover Business Startup. It's like a self-directed 401k that invests in like your own. It's a way for you to invest your retirement money. And I'm not saying that it's like it has its pros and cons, but I know a lot about that. So there are certain types of self-employed, business owners that are structured as LLCs, S corps, C corps, et cetera. That is where you need the human touch still today. Right.
Yeah.
According with all of with the different, there are lots of things in strategic tax where you can talk to 10 different CPAs and get 10 different answers. Right. So it's now like that's where we're at today. Right. And income tax. And I'm not going to get political, but I will just say something that's interesting again, it's October, we're less than 2 weeks away from the 2024 election. And one of the things that, that's just interesting. I don't want to get into is this good or bad policy, blah, blah, blah. But what's interesting that Trump has brought up conversation over the last couple of weeks. He brought it up on the Joe Rogan podcast, and he brought it up, I think, at his Madison Square Garden rally and some other places, is this like the elimination of the income tax system entirely and just going to tariffs. So it's is that going to happen? Probably not. Even if Trump wins, is that going to happen? Probably not. But what if that did happen? Then do you even have a need for tax preparers anymore? So it's just so AI, and but that's that's an extreme example of like political landscape. Like what's going to happen with president? What's going to happen with Congress? It's like, what if we go to pure tariffs? I doubt that'll happen for various reasons, but what if that happened? But then I better go get another skill set because I'm going to be out of work. And then I think that bookkeeping is more vulnerable to getting completely wiped out by AI compared to tax. Because at least tax, like as of today, there's lots of places where you can zig and zag in the Internal Revenue Code where you need a CPA like myself to navigate to save money
Yep.
in taxes with different strategies. With bookkeeping, it's just bookkeeping. But there are some things like how you treat certain things, home office, auto expense. There are certain things, but for the most part, bookkeeping is bookkeeping. But so like in conclusion, so like the two main things that I think about are like the biggest threats or like things to be on like AI and political landscape.
Yeah, that definitely can be big disruptors as you're going through and learning and having some of those conversations. Okay, it has been great to get to know more about your company, what drives your passions around helping small businesses and your business. You ready to jump into the lightning round?
Let's do it.
Okay, questions aren't that hard to start. Cat, and I messed it up to begin with. So, the coffee or tea,
Coffee.
cats or
Dogs.
if you could grab only one weapon or item during a zombie apocalypse, what would it be?
One weapon or item. One weapon during a zombie apocalypse. Man, I have no idea because it's like you can't kill them; they're already dead. So I'm just gonna have to like pass on that one.
Okay. Favorite quote or phrase that you think about often?
Man, yeah, so much for I told you that I'm not going to get testy on you, Jason, but I will get stumped, and you're getting me, and I'm on my espresso, so it's gosh, there's so many in business and personal. You know what I'm saying? For the sake of business, I would just say the ability to put in 8+ hours of focused work um, is is a huge needle mover when you're if you're just going, it's not a really quarter phrase, it's just the ability. What will separate successful business owners from unsuccessful business owners is the ability to get into a deep focus.
Yeah.
So many people get distracted, and so it's, to me, that's been something that's been really powerful for me recently, is the ability to, like, literally, I had an 8-hour meeting with my leadership team last week. That was the first time. We're going to do it once every 2 weeks. An 8-hour meeting, not a 30-minute meeting, not a, oh, I got to go to my next phone call or my next Zoom. And then it's like back to back to back. Like today I'm back to back on stuff. That's fine. Most of the time I'm back to back, but it's like, what separates good companies from not good companies is the ability for the leadership to get into 8+ hour meetings to talk about the meaty, potatoy things that really matter for the business. So that's not really a quarter of phrase, but that's just so freaking important as a business owner.
Yeah. No, that's great. How about one book that has influenced your life the most?
Man, really, honestly, I'm just gonna like the Old Testament, to be honest. I don't really read that much. And
Nope. That's
so
great.
the Old Testament.
Sounds great. How about the biggest obstacle you have ever had to overcome and one lesson that you learned from it?
So the I had to lose a lot of I had to lose a lot of weight. The obstacle that I've had to overcome is just to, man, honestly, like to be where I'm at as a business owner today in a very stressful industry, where be able to be an owner of a CPA firm at and to now own it, right, at 37 years old, been in it for 14 years, high stress industry. We didn't really get into it too much for the sake of time, but a big part of my journey of owning the firm that hired me out of college is, yeah, acquisition, but also in doing so, fixing a broken business. And so having the burden of in my 20s and early 30s to fix a broken business and wearing multiple hats, having to take care of clients, stressful deadlines all the time, putting on all this weight, having to lose weight, and in all of that, becoming a husband, becoming a father, and just balancing, but to be able to figure out how to live a balanced life as a super busy business owner is the challenge. And I don't know, I'm paraphrasing now, but the follow-up, like what I learned from it is just that if like, whatever you put your focus to, no matter how busy you are, like whatever you put your focus to, you can achieve and you can find balance.
Yep. That is so important and right in line with everything that I talk about focus and work-life balance and all of the things inside of. I've been on a similar journey myself through the years. Michael, it has been such a fantastic to have you on the podcast today. what is the best way that our viewers, listeners can be able to collaborate with you if they want to reach out?
Absolutely. Go to my website, readercpagroup.com, readercpagroup.com. We have offices in Chicago and Maine, but we work with clients all across the country. My LinkedIn profile, it's my first and middle and last name, Michael Ian Reader, CPA. You'll see me on LinkedIn. Send me a connection request or follow me. You can submit an inquiry on my website to reach out. And then my email, michael@readercpagroup.com. And Jason, I'm a millennial. I give up my cell phone to I have two cell phones. So I have my personal cell phone that doesn't have any work apps on it. So my cell phone, 847-302-3397.
Michael, that sounds great. Listeners, you heard it out there. It is reach out to him on his website, LinkedIn, got the cell phone number. All of that information will be in the show notes or the description if you're watching this on YouTube. And I want to thank Michael for being on the show and sharing so many great insights into the world and new world that's coming on tax preparation and strategy. Feel free to reach out to him for more resources and tips and tricks. And he has some great content out there too. So take a look at what he's got going on. Until next time.